Hey, y'all, Doug with D&E in the Garage. Today I want to show you how you can redo and replace a disgusting, dirty, sagging, falling down headliner for like 40 bucks. Hey y'all, here's the situation. If you can't tell by now from all the videos I've been putting out recently, I bought myself a Jeep Cherokee. It's a 2000, it's got relatively low miles. I love it, but it did have a few things wrong with it. And one of the most obvious things is this headliner, right? It started falling down, apparently, at some point. Somebody tried, they tried screwing it back up. I mean, you can see there's all these screws going in it. This is the first, I've never seen this before. They took like little pieces of metal and are like shimming it up. I don't know, but headliners happen to be my specialty. All right, now this technique will obviously work, you could just replace it with another gray headliner or whatever color, plain color that matched the vehicle original, but I say, why not have some fun with it? So I found this like Navajo, Native American blanket looking stuff. It's gonna be a bit much, but if you've seen my Jeeps, I think you know by now, I'm a fan of loud headliners. That one right there has like Realtree camo. The WJ I just sold has, what did it have? Avengers. So this stuff I got on sale. I got 3.5 yards of it, which is about how much you need for a WJ. I actually think it's going to be too much for this one. This is smaller. Probably could have got away with 3 yards even. Anyway, 3 yards, 3 to 3.5 yards of fleece. That's all this is. It's not special headliner material. You can use any material that has a little bit of stretch to it. It's got to have some stretch so that it can contour, to like the lines and stuff. Got this at a fabric store today. It was 70% off, as fabric often is, especially some may say sort of ugly fabric like this one. So this stuff was, how much was it? $15. Alrighty, the only other thing you're gonna need that you don't probably already have, tools, is this right here, some spray adhesive. I warn you, don't use just any spray adhesive, alright? The first time I ever did this, I used, what was it, Scotch. It did not work. The headliner fell down. It's got to be 3M Super 77. Alrighty, now every headliner is different, but basically to get a headliner out, you got to remove all this stuff that's clearly going through the headliner. These have a screw right down there. On some you need to remove the rearview mirror, not on this one. These trim pieces are going to have to come out. I'm not going to show you a how-to on how to remove this, but just understand that, this is the stuff that's holding it in. These trim pieces, these visors, this center console light, all that stuff needs to come out, all right? Like I said, I'm not going to do a how-to on removing this headliner. If you don't want to see this time lapse, which I'll explain a few things during, you can skip ahead to about 5 minutes 45 seconds. The reason I'm not going to bother doing a how-to, every headliner is different, but they're all easy. I mean, it's just a matter of removing the stuff that is either bolted through the headliner or overlapping the headliner. Visors on every vehicle are going to have to come down, or almost every vehicle. Grab handles a lot of the time. Any lights that are on the ceiling probably are going to have to come down to get the headliner out, so it's just a matter of going around, being careful. You don't want to break anything. A lot of times these interior trim panels are held in with plastic clips. You got to be careful because a lot of times they're not replaceable either. I know on the back side of the A-pillar trim on this XJ, it's a metal clip, but it's held on with plastic, and I didn't realize that. And I pulled it and I broke it, and there's no real way I could glue it, but it would never be the same again. So I'll probably find one in the junkyard at some point to replace it. I think this whole process took me about a half an hour. I've had them take a little longer. It's kind of tedious. If you had a buddy, it would go a whole lot quicker. I never seem to have anyone around when I'm trying to do a headliner. You can see my old headliner material, the actual cloth, is falling down so severely that I end up ripping it out. You may encounter where yours is just discolored or something, or there's nothing wrong with it, you just want to replace it, and you will have to peel yours off at a later date once you get it out of the vehicle. Mine's fallen down so much, you'll see in a second, I end up just ripping it right out. you always get to a certain point, and it's happened every time I've done a headliner, where everything is out and you are so certain that you have every fastener out, but the headliner still won't move. And there's always about 10 or 15 minutes where you're running around trying to figure out, what did I miss? I don't get it, and then you'll find that one last little clip that was holding the whole thing up. That's what I'm doing right here. I was so certain that everything was out. I didn't think I had to take those speakers out. It didn't look like they were bolted through the headliner, but it turned out they were. So those back speakers had to come out in order to get the headliner down, and once I did that, it pretty much came right out. Yep, you can see. Pops right out. And I'd say that's the scariest part, is actually taking everything apart. From there on, it's kind of a fun process. Alright, here we go. Headliner is out. Now, as you saw, I think in that last one, that last clip, it was falling down so much when I was pulling it out that there's really none of the actual headliner fabric left. But at this point, you would want to pull this stuff off. And usually, if you can get a corner to start, you can pull it off in strips. And that's the easiest way to do it. Then you're left with the old backing material. It kind of just rubs off. Now, if your old backing material is not rubbing off easily, I would say just leave it, but this stuff is clearly spent. So what I'm going to do is get this thing all cleaned up. I'm going to get that backing material off. I'll probably use a stiff bristled brush to just rub it off, and then we'll be ready to put the new headliner on. Alright, once you got everything off, you're going to want to take some kind of brush and just make sure you got all the particles off, because anything that's left there, the glue will stick to that instead of sticking to the actual headliner. Now, the most important places to get are down wherever there's curves, because that's where it's going to want to pull away. I mean, it's real easy to get it to stick in the flat areas here, but up here on the edges where it curves and stuff, that's where you want to make sure it's really nice and clean. Alright, everything we've been doing up to this point is the easy part. Now it's time to spray it and get it transferred on. You want to lay out your fleece with the side that you want showing down. Alright, I've got a little bit of wood under there. Ideally, you wouldn't just lay it on the ground, get a tarp or something. What you're going to do is liberally spray the back of the fleece and your headliner. You want to make sure you cover every inch, paying close attention to areas like this with lots of curves, because that's where it's hard to get it to stick. Alright, and you want to let it sit for just a few minutes, because this stuff is kind of like RTV. You let it get tacky and then it works. And then you flip that thing onto there, and then the miserable part comes, but we'll get to that in a second. Alright, don't do what I did here. Get yourself a table to work on. My lower back was killing me by the end of this. Another thing, do not be stingy with this glue. This stuff's about $12 to $15 a can. Don't buy a cheaper spray adhesive, and don't try to cheap out of it. You probably need a full can. Fine, buy an extra just in case. You want to spray both materials until they're looking frosty, and I go over them several times, almost like I'm spray painting. That way you can make sure you didn't miss a spot. You can make sure there's plenty of stuff on there. If not, if you miss a spot and if you don't lay it out right, it's going to start to pull away in a couple days or a couple months. Now, I had Ash come out to give me a hand. You're not going to be able to do this next part alone. You got to lay it on there and then take some time. You have a few minutes to work with this stuff before it sets, making sure that no area is pulling on the fabric. Those areas where it curves, it's tempting to push it down into the curve and stretch the fabric. Don't do that. It'll start to pull away. It'll look fine today, and then in a week or something it'll start to pull away. Another thing, if you see any areas that need more glue, do it now. Now is the only time. This is the last time that you can affect how the finished product is going to look. So go ahead and take your time, do it right, and it'll look good for, one that I've done right, that I'm confident I did right. I've never had a problem with, being good for years. Now on to the less than fun part. You're going to need a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a pair of these. What you're going to do is flip this headliner over, and you want to roll all of these edges over, and you need to make cutouts for all the stuff like the lights. Just watch, you'll see. Alright, this is the last step. You're going to flip the headliner over, cut 2.5–3 inches around the whole thing. You're going to spray adhesive anywhere where the fabric is showing and a little bit onto the backing material. You're going to cut X's in any of the spaces where there are holes in the middle of the backing material, and then you're going to fold everything over. Just watch what I'm doing here. It's pretty self-explanatory. You're essentially finishing it. You want a clean transition. You don't want cut edges being seen from inside the vehicle. So you get a little more spray adhesive. You spray those transition areas. See right now I'm cutting an X right there, trimming this up. Cutting a hole through that, cutting an X. See, now the opening is made. Nice clean transition. You're going to do this all the way around. Make sure you get anywhere where even just a pinhole where a screw is going through has to be opened up. Those little slots around the speaker holes where the vents are going to go, they all have to be opened up. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to put stuff on later, and you're going to have to take the headliner out to make these cuts. Once you're done with all that cutting and everything, you got one more chance to really go over everything. Anything that's not staying glued right now isn't going to stay glued later. Alright? These edges where they curl up are one of the prime places where if you pulled it tight, it's just not going to stay. Now, I'm really not happy about it. This XJ headliner is by far the hardest one I've ever done because of how drastic the changes are here. Also, I got it all dirty. So there are wrinkles. I'm really not happy about it. I'm going to probably try to find some way to cover it with something. I'm hoping the back trim covers a lot of that. It just is what it is. Like these, it's such a drastic change from where the speakers are that is what it is. You know, it's certainly better than it was, right? Alrighty. I don't think I'm going to do a time lapse of me putting it back in. It's the opposite of everything that you already saw me do to take it out. How about that? Alright, here is finished product. Alright, you may notice that there are no visors in this picture. I did end up putting them on the same way they were with the old gray material. They weren't that bad, and it didn't look, it kind of tied everything together, having a little more gray on there. There is a way to cover XJ visors with the material. I think you break the visor in half. I may do a separate video on that, but for now, I'm just going to use the stock ones that were on this vehicle before. Yes, it is very loud, but I'm a fan of loud. I feel like it's okay to do something loud on the headliner as long as you do a good job. If you do a crappy job, then the fact that you picked an outlandish pattern is kind of going to matter. You can see so far so good. I haven't put these back on. I'm doing them in a second. So far so good with all the curves. Those speaker pods don't look too bad. Overall, all in all, very happy with the way it came out. And it brightens up the inside of the Jeep. Hey, y'all, if you liked this video, if you found it at all helpful, by all means, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you got any questions on this process, go ahead and hit me up. I want some comments. Let me know what you guys think of this, of the headliner, the process, everything, all right? Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.